The reason the government's involved in marriage is to perpetuate and stabilize society, to make an institution that protects children. The problem is when you say we have same-sex marriage now, is you're making the institution of marriage genderless. And if it's genderless, that means it has nothing to do with children. And if there isn't an institution to protect children called marriage, what is the institution that protects children? There isn't one.
My name's Olivia.
Hey, Olivia.
Thank you for your talk. It really pierced my heart. Second, I have two questions.
Yes, ma'am.
One, going on with Mill's harm principle. I've heard that homosexuality is a victimless sin. That's the argument I've heard. What are tangible negative effects that it has on society?
On society? Okay. Let me just ask this question. What would happen if everybody lived faithfully in a biological marriage between a man and a woman? What would happen to our society? Would that be good or bad? It'd be very good, right? Abortion would go down, child abuse would go down, fatherless homes would go down, taxes would go down because the government doesn't need all that money to try and take care of what the family used to take care of. One of the biggest problems we have in America and around the world is fatherless homes, okay? And the best way to bring up the next generation to perpetuate and stabilize society is in the biological two-parent home. Next question. What would happen if everyone lived faithfully in, say, same-sex marriage? We'd go out of existence, right? Now, I'm not saying a law that allowed same-sex marriage would cause this. I'm simply pointing out the qualitative difference between the two relationships. One perpetuates and stabilizes society, the other one doesn't. And it doesn't make any sense to equate two things that are not equal. The reason the government's involved in marriage is to perpetuate and stabilize society, to make an institution that protects children. The problem is when you say we have same-sex marriage now, is you're making the institution of marriage genderless. And if it's genderless, that means it has nothing to do with children. And if there isn't an institution to protect children called marriage, what is the institution that protects children? There isn't one. And by the way, it wasn't the same-sex LGBTQ community that gave us same-sex marriage. You know who it was? It was heterosexuals who bought into the idea that marriage was just about romantic feelings. And that's why no-fault divorce laws came into effect to try and get people out of bad marriages. But in doing that, what they decided, maybe without knowing it, was they made marriage all about the romantic interests of adults. If it's all about the romantic interests of adults, then people think they deserve to get out of a bad relationship and find somebody else. And who is left with all the pain and sorrow? The kids. In fact, I would submit to you, there's probably half the people in this room right now have been scarred by divorce. You've been scarred by it. So same-sex marriage and opposite-sex marriage are not the same thing. You can also look at the medical effects of same-sex behavior, and people involved in even long-term same-sex relationships are much more unhealthy. I have a book on this. It's called Correct, Not Politically Correct. So if you want to go further, you can. Now, people will shout you down as a bigot, which shows they don't have any arguments. Okay? It's not bigotry, it's biology. Okay, that's just the way things are. I wish it was different. I wish I could say, hey, do whatever you want. But I'm not the general manager of the universe, right? I'm here to tell you what I think the truth is, and I don't make up morality. That's God. It comes from his nature. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, thank you.